Here's a project kind of rearranging fence at a place. This is using that fir material, which is a little cheaper than the cedar. Actually, it's a lot cheaper than the cedar, and it's staying to kind of match. And I find that the preservative on that stuff helps it age a little better in some environments, better than the cedar does. But that's a lot of times a matter of opinion. So what we did here is a basic two-post addition. Normally on a run this length we would only have one post in the middle, but if we have to have a gate we really need to put that with real posts. I put the concrete in dry. I don't mix it. You just put the quickcrete in dry, and then at the last moment before I leave I'll pour some water in there to moisten it. But in moist soil the concrete will actually absorb moisture from the soil entirely on its own. And if you need to make some adjustments to the fence position, it's kind of good to do that while it's dry, and because you can kind of sledgehammer the base of the fence and make some adjustments. But this is what we call good neighbor fencing. It's kind of a double lap thing. It makes a stronger fence than putting all the things on one side, but you also run into a little bit of an issue with the spacing. Okay, spacing isn't always, you got to have the spacing look right to go between the runs. So it's a little bit of an art form to kind of adjust your spacing between runs. And then every once in a while something tweaks out of level and you kind of adjust your spacing and level a little bit. But it's this type of fencing, I mean, yeah, you want things to be straight, but it's not a precision, it's not precision instrument stuff. So here I've got a functional gate that's made to look as much like as possible like the fence from the other side. So we really, like the little string for getting a latch, I just use a 550 cord and make that look a little more camouflaged. Did a little repair while I was here on one it had been cracked. It's not made to keep out Kubla Khan or Attila the Hun, but it's a good little privacy fence. And then creating a gate rather than buying a gate gives us a little more leeway in gate design. So on this I'm kind of following a little bit of the ground contour, but while keeping the top level. Again, kind of art form on all of that. By putting the diagonal cross piece, it's wood instead of metal. It's some people say no, you got to have metal brackets in there. It's a pretty narrow gate. And the other thing is I screwed everything in there super secure. So it's pretty rigid as far as the gate goes. And the other thing is the property owner kind of wanted the bottom of the fence to be pretty close with the gate. Well, the problem is that we're going to be adding landscaping here later on, and we don't want that gate scraping on stuff and getting all goofed up. So I gotta choke up a little bit by cutting the bottoms off those things. So when somebody bids something like this, it tends to be per foot of fence plus gates. But if you want to understand where some of these guys are saving a lot of money, it's on the fencing material and then on the spacing, because the spacing can vary a little bit. On this little batch of stuff, because there's a fence like it on the other side of the building, I ended up using a lot more of the uprights than what I would normally use, because I went with a tighter spacing than what these people have here. You can see how you can see through that fence at certain angles. On this one, even though it's the double, there's a lot of angles where you're not going to see through the fence, and that was because I had to kind of fudge factor the facing like on this so that I end up with a solid rail on both sides. And could I have spread it out a little more? Yeah, but it wouldn't look right on the other side. But that's basic fence construction, basic house stuff, good neighborhood type stuff. This type of fencing is not secure for tactical purposes in bad neighborhoods, because somebody can bash through it pretty quickly. But if it's screwed and not nailed, you can buy time. It's basically just for keeping the kids and dogs in and that sort of a thing.